What's good, y'all? You're listening to the Glow Up Podcast. We are recording remotely from our homes, but we are still a part of the Soundcasting Network here in Seattle, Washington, and the Rona is still out there. I am Miss Casey Carter.
I'm Naomi Raven.
And who do we have? Yay! Our brother is here with us.
Go ahead. Introduce.
I know. You introduce yourself. I don't. Nah, you ain't no guest.
No, because you normally say the thing. Go ahead.
It's all good. Mo is here, as you guys can hear and feel.
What's up, guys? What's going on?
We're so excited. It's officially podcast month. We'll tell you more about that. We're going to teach you guys how to start a podcast and all that fun stuff. So we're so excited to be here. We're so excited to be back because I got to shout out, before we get into all the announcements and stuff, I got to shout out my girl Naomi because she held it down last week. It was such a great episode and you just did great. So yes, amazing job. But we want to remind everybody to rate, review, and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you listen to podcasts. And sign up for our Glow Gang Spotlight if you are a small business. This is where we shine the light on you and let you tell us about your business and let us know how we can help you, because we are all about supporting each other. And then don't forget to sign up for our email list as well, because that is where you will be tied into some deals, exclusive information, all that good stuff. So hit the link in our bio for both of that, for everything that we talk about on this show. You can hit the link in our bio and see that information. Well, Naomi, who did you host the show with last week?
Yes, I want to give a huge thank you to Sarah Lovestyle. She was an amazing guest for me to fly solo with, and in the episode, it has kept me fired up all week long. She shares her journey so authentically and she keeps it real with us. And she's a busy woman, and just the peace that she brings. If you guys haven't tuned in, you need to listen now.
Yeah, that is just one episode to really listen to and really just gain inspiration and just feel like, I was so touched. I text Naomi and I was like, I'm crying right now listening to her episode. I was bawling.
Yeah, y'all, I had to hold back tears as she was talking live because she spoke some truth.
So definitely check it out. She's amazing. And her IG game is on point. She be holding it down. Mo, are you following her yet?
Yeah. She was dancing a lot.
Yep, she be doing the real challenges and all that stuff. So shout out to her. And what was so dope was that she's from Seattle. She's from the town.
Yes.
I was like, okay, that was dope. So shout out to Sarah Lovestyle. All right, so let's hop into our weekly wins and lessons. I will go first. My lesson, and it's a win too, is just realizing that I have the greatest friends ever. I have friends that, like, one of my best friends, we've been friends since I was in 8th grade. And then the others are from high school. And then I have 2 newer friends, but that group of women, they're so amazing. And they make me feel like I forget how old I am because of our friendship and how we are and things like that. It's just, it feels timeless. And, I'm just so grateful because I see posts where it's like, retweet this if you have friends that you've been friends with for more than 5 years. And I'd be like, the fuck? Are people out here? I mean, maybe those just ain't for people who are 30 and up, but I just be like, that's all I have are friends that I've known for a lifelong time. So shout out to my group of friends. I'm just so blessed. I'm so grateful because I know not a lot of people have a lot of good friends.
For real.
That's real.
For real. That's real.
Circle small, just a dot. Naomi, what about you? What's your weekly winner lesson?
So my lesson is kind of inspired by Sarah's episode because it was just a great reminder to cling on to my faith when things are getting difficult. Instead of like dwelling in what's hard, like holding on to what can really keep me pushing and knowing that at the end of it, there is a purpose in it. There is a reason. And it's probably something bigger than what I can see in the moment. And it's shaping me for my future. Just really inspired by faith.
Love it. Yeah. What's up with you, Mo? Weekly win or lesson?
Yeah. Just, win and lesson is just having the courage to reach out to folks whenever you need help or want to learn something and so forth. So, that was a real struggle for me personally. And so, once I broke that barrier never been hesitant to reach out to folks to just ask for some help, some guidance, learn from, and so forth. And I kind of applied that this week, and I've learned a few things and practiced a few things and just had the courage to do it, and turned out great. And so far, and yeah, that's it basically. Just having the courage to learn new things and reaching out to folks to just get some help. It doesn't hurt. Some
New
people want to
things
help.
like modeling for
I
Paradise Avenue
guess.
South.
I guess they
Mo's out here. That's a
the
win for him
the
too. They just
the bro
modeled.
reached out to me. I don't model.
Yes.
I don't model.
He was
But
out
shout out to
here.
Paradise though. That's the second collab though, because
Check
we
that
did a
out,
t-shirt
y'all.
and then that. So that was pretty cool. But yeah,
That's dope.
just having the courage to reach out to folks, and if you need help with anything, don't ever hesitate. And yeah, go from there.
The worst thing that they can do is say no. So
Worst thing they
you
can
know.
say is no. And that's it.
Yes.
So yeah,
Okay,
that's it.
dope. Well, let's get into our vibe check, Mo. What are you currently what are you vibing with right now?
HBO Max still. They're
Oh my
still
God, I need
delivering
to sign
heat
up.
every day. I
Jesus.
watched Godzilla versus Kong like twice. Movie's crazy.
Yeah,
It's
everyone's
crazy.
giving it like I thought people were being like I thought they were joking by the way that everyone's been showing that movie love, but nah, y'all
Nah,
are really fucking with it.
it's fire. Plus the series they got, the old school series they got, they just put the Wayne brothers on there. All their seasons is on there. So
Oh,
I've been chilling, man. Quarantine's been good. And
yes.
HBO Max has been hitting. So I'm vibing with that for sure.
Awesome. What about you, Naomi?
So mine is a movie on Amazon Prime. I talked about it a few months ago about how I was rocking with thrillers. It's a thriller. It's called I See You, and I promise you that you will not figure out the ending of this movie.
Oh,
You will
yes.
think
Is
that
that
you
the Lena
know,
Waithe movie?
huh?
Is that the Lena Waithe movie?
No,
Oh, okay. Sorry.
but it's good. You'll think you
Okay.
know who did it, and
I love that because we watch movies and like it's just like you already know what's going down, and
yes,
it's so funny when I read like so for everyone who doesn't know we have like a show sheet which is what you need when you have a podcast.
yes.
Naomi wrote "I see you" on Amazon Prime, but it seems like how we be like "I see you"
Yeah.
Amazon Prime.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I was like,
I thought you were shouting out
that's a
Amazon
vibe.
Prime.
No.
I was like, that's the vibe, right? All
I
right,
do think
cool.
it's an Amazon Prime original, so kind of.
Yes. Okay.
That's
Okay.
what's
That
up.
I gotta
I'm gonna check that out.
You guys is giving me stuff to watch. Last week, since I was out unexpectedly, I did not get to shout this out, but I'm definitely vibing with New Zealand. They announced that they're giving paid leave for miscarriages for women, which is just the right thing to do. I know so many women are so scared to like open up or tell their boss or just like they don't think that they're going to get any time off or anything like that. So shout out to them for always paving the way. I know that I was very fortunate enough to open up with my previous employer and let them know what I was going through when I was there. And they were, very supportive. So yeah, that's an amazing thing. So shout out to New Zealand. And then it was 2 weeks ago when King Mo was on the show. And I was talking about a lesson that I shared was that you don't got to do things, you get to do things. And I was talking about Big Sean saying this on a specific podcast, and the guy who hosts it his name is Jay Shetty, and he went to study to be a monk. He's an amazing person. I had no idea who he was until my girlfriend gave me his book for Christmas, and I was like, I don't know who this is. But then I found out this is his podcast, and it's called On Purpose. And it's so funny. The word purpose has been like a theme for me this week. And the podcast is just so inspiring. It's so real. He has guests like Chelsea Handler, Lala, all these amazing guests. And then in between the interviews that he does, he drops like 6 tips on handling your stress or 6 tips on like finding the right relationship for you. And they're not corny. That's what I like about him. It's not like the whole hoorah of like, just the cloudiness that goes around self-help. It's like real, easy to digest information. So if you're looking for something new, you're looking for some inspiration, definitely check out Jay Shetty On Purpose podcast. You have so much great content right there.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I heard that episode with Big Sean. It was really good. It was really
So
good.
good. Oh man, just made me look at Big Sean like, damn, I see you, you know? That was really dope. Okay, well, it is podcast month, and the reason we decided to do this is just because there's so much, there's so many dope podcasts out there, and then there's also a lot of people who want to start podcasts or who are doing podcasts, and they just don't know how to do certain things. So we figured we'd take this month, own these episodes, and share all the information that we have and the experience we have with you guys so you can glow up with us, because we went through everything to glow up and get to the level we are right now. And, we're always learning, we're always growing. But we figured, why not in glow up fashion share the information and share all the lessons that we've went through. So each week it's going to be a new episode about basically how to start, run, and operate your podcast. So we're really excited for the whole team to be here. We're going to have our producer hop on a little later on as well. So we're really excited to have podcast month. And then even in our spotlights, we're going to have podcasts we're highlighting. It's just a full month of podcast stuff. So
Dope.
Definitely. Yes. Okay. So let's just start things off. Okay. You want to start a podcast. First, you got to create the content. You got to think about what you want to talk about, like I remember when I started this podcast, I was like trying to figure out like what the core of Casey was and like, what did I want to talk about? And I always want to talk about, I always want my content to be some type of helping, informational content. So, and that's what I always was doing in my interviews before. I was just always asking people like, questions like that could help the person watching. So, what better way to have a podcast, that embodies what I love doing. So when you think about a podcast, I think the best way to do this, like I was doing this already. So, just kind of already was there. But I think that if you want to start a podcast and you don't know what you want to talk about, it's definitely time to like pull out a whiteboard, pull out a big old Post-it, do what you need to do and write all the shit down. Another thing too is when you figure out what you want to talk about, think about the competition.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Because everybody's going to be talking about kind of the same things too. So like, how can you be different when it comes to your content? You can add in certain little things like certain games or certain segments with them in between to be different. But yeah, for sure. Add in little things. Look at your competition. Look at what everybody's doing for sure.
Because I think a lot of the times when I hear people who want to start podcasts, because I think what happens, and this is how I started podcasts, was I heard a podcast and I was like, oh, I can do this. So I think so many people see their friends or they see other people and they listen to podcasts and they're like, oh, I can do this. But then when they think about what they're going to talk about, it's like kind of the same shit that everyone is talking about or like the podcast that they listen to. So you got to understand. And then this game is crazy. I never thought podcasts would be where like Barack fucking Obama is hosting a podcast.
Everybody wants one.
Everyone is IKEA.
Sydney Radio. IKEA got a podcast?
Yes. Okay.
For real?
What?
Yes. I don't know what they're talking about, but it was like this big thing. Anyways, there's hella competition out here. So once you figure out what you really want to talk about, chances are you're going to need to narrow that down. You're going to need to like narrow that all the way down. Like there's podcasts about Britney Spears's Instagram posts and dissecting those. Like that's a very narrowed down niche podcast. The better you are able to grind it down, the better your target audience is going to be. And you're not going to need to compete so much.
I think you nailed it when you said like dissecting it, because it's like a podcast is a conversation, but it's so much more than a conversation. It really needs to be broken down.
Yeah. It needs to be special. Mm-hmm. It needs to be special.
And creative.
Because people's attention, everyone's getting pulled everywhere. So, you need to be able to stand out. And then also do your research. Like, you need to see what your obviously you need to understand what your competition is out there. And you need to see, like, does somebody else like talk about the same exact thing? Like, also, how long are the podcasts out there? Like, like how are people marketing? Like, you need to really like study and dive into researching podcasts and everything. Because there's so many little elements. We're going to talk about so much more, but like do your research, study it, like devote 3 months to this shit if you really want to do it.
Absolutely.
And you're not just a host, like you're starting a brand. That's the one big thing that I always like to tell people. Like, it's not just like, okay, I'm about to just do this podcast and drop it and everyone's going to listen to it. Like, it's a full campaign. It's a nonstop operation, which we'll talk about more. But you're not just hosting a podcast, you're definitely starting a brand. And
I
just
love
think it,
that.
yeah, like we embody the glow up, you know? And like it took us a while to get to where we are, but like, you know, I fully feel like this is the glow up brand. Like us right here, this is definitely the glow up brand.
Absolutely.
And I think we all understand that, you know? But other little things to think about is like, will you have guests? Like, is this going to be like a little talk? I know I used to listen to this podcast by Carly Hustle, super dope female in music. And her podcast was her reading like an essay. And it was so dope. She just
That's
went
what's
the
up.
fuck in. Yeah, check out her past episodes. I don't think she does it anymore, but that's what it was. It was her reading an essay, you know? So there's other podcasts. I know Issa Rae, she had one where it was like, it was a story, it was storytelling. I forget what it
Yeah.
was called. You know which one I'm talking about? It was
I know what
nasty.
you're talking about, but I'm not sure the name of it. But yeah, she was just telling a story. It was like a literally like a podcast series, but it's a
Yeah,
story. Yeah. That's dope. Like you have to just if you could be different, that's how you can add more people to your podcast. Like I listen to a podcast that's devoted to nothing but movie reviews about bad movies. And that intrigues me because I've seen these terrible movies and these people think like I thought. So it's good to hear that. So, you know, stuff like that, stuff that you think would intrigue people to your podcast, go for that instead
I
of just
love
talking
that.
about the main topic of,
Mhm.
you know, Meg the Stallion and her dude, and
Yo,
they went to the waterfront and ate Ivers or something. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like you
exactly.
don't break that down. Go with a different topic, but overall be creative. We're not telling you not to just jump in and do it. Go ahead if that's the case and figure it out later, but get creative a little bit. Think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just like we're saying, it doesn't have to just be like us, like having conversations, interviews, like it can be something different. Like you can read shit in ASMR, you could read sexy stories, you could read children's books. Like you can
For
do
real.
something else because there's going to be somebody out there just like Mo's listening to movie reviews, like I'm listening to 90 Day Fiance recaps, like, you know, but I
Yeah.
also listen to a ton of other podcasts. So there's just so many different ways to do things.
Can I ask you,
Yeah.
Casey, did you always know that you wanted to have guests on the Glow Up, or did you ever think you would just be spitting game?
Absolutely. It was definitely the part of, you know, having these conversations and sharing that and letting other people hear it. I've always enjoyed that and sharing, you know, I'm always asking again, like I said, about how somebody got started or just trying to dig in and get some knowledge and get some insight. So it was always going to be about guests. I know people who followed this podcast since the beginning, things have definitely turn way different. And honestly, this is what we are doing today. This is exactly what I envisioned when I wanted to start the Globe. But it took us all this time. Like, you know, I want y'all to know, like, I'm being very transparent. It took 4 years for us to finally get to where we are today. And, you know, like, I'm so happy. This is the first episode that's probably going to be a lot longer than we've normally had. And I really like that, you know, like, I'm really, really happy with where we are.
But I guess that's another thing that people should maybe comprehend as well is that don't expect when you start a podcast, don't expect for it just to hit fire right away. Like it's gonna take time to build, and we'll get further into that. But just understand that when you do a podcast, it's gonna take time for it to grow. Don't stop, keep going, keep thinking of those creative ideas, but don't expect it just to pop off right away. Let it go, grow. It's like watering a plant. You put the seed in the ground, put water on it. It's going to take time for it to grow. Treat that just like your podcast. And then, but still think creatively.
And that's why I say 3 months, because I think that, you know, we think so quick and then we just like go, you know, like I want to do podcasts. Oh, I go to the store and buy all the shit and then we're going to do it. And that's it, you know, but it's like, if you sit and you marinate and you let it cook for a little bit, your ideas might change. They're going to evolve. They might grow. You might see something else that inspires you. And you're like, maybe I should. A lot of people are like that. They be like, I want to talk
Yeah.
about this. Oh, no, I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about this. So I think when you sit on things, and it's funny that I'm saying that because I'm a person who likes to go, go, go. So definitely take that advice from somebody who does like to do that. Like the more you sit and the more you take time and marinate, the better and better your idea is going to be.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm all for that.
Yes.
All
Well,
for
what
that.
else we need with podcasts? Because okay, so you got an idea. What's
Yes.
next?
I think it's important to know that starting a podcast is an investment, whether it's an investment with your time, but especially it's an investment with your money. And not in a sense to scare people to think like, oh, I can't do this because I might not have money to start it up, but just to be aware that you're going to have to invest in yourself, your product, your brand, to make yourself to have quality,
Yo,
because
say that again, Naomi.
we all know we don't like to listen to things of poor quality. We talked about it in our meeting about how a podcast, we're digesting it with our ears. And so you might have to spend a little bit. I think I had my biggest realization when we went through COVID of like we were in a studio. And so when it came to equipment and stuff, like I wasn't thinking about that. And that was a blessing to have that. But then moving into it, it was like, okay, we still want to do this. How are we going to move into it? We need to invest into our homes, whether that's your equipment with your computer, your microphone, your room, so that the sound is good. We've got to
Word.
acknowledge that you probably are going to have to put a little bit out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think a lot of studios are open. I mean, I don't know, depending on where you are, but um, we are all at home now, so, and I feel I love recording at home. Like, how much gas have we saved? Like, Naomi lives super
Girl.
far south, Mo lives south now. You guys got to think about that. Like, we were going to the studio every single week. Like, we're not even talking about all that other shit. We're talking about investing your time and gas money
Yeah.
into going to that
For real.
studio every week. Just having money to bring, Mo had to have a camera. We had to buy a background. Like our engineer had to rent that space. Like there were so many little things that went into it financially that we're not even like talking about like, okay, a microphone. And if you're going to pay an engineer, you need editing software. You can't just record this shit on your phone and put that shit out. Like,
No.
and like even for somebody like me who's worked in radio, who like listens to things all the time, like I'm not an engineer. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like we're so lucky and privileged. Just like Naomi was saying, like we didn't have to think about all that equipment. Like we've been so lucky to have been working with the Soundcasting Network and Keith and having good quality. And another reason why we wanted to do podcast month is because of like, and this is no shots at all, just like the lack of quality that we would hear from up and coming podcasts. Like we want to make sure y'all sound on point, and like you guys got to take that shit seriously. I do hear people, I've seen people who complain about people not fucking with them, but then you listen to the show and you're like, well, like your personality is not enough for me to want to. Naomi said it. You digest this shit with your ears. That's it with the podcast. You don't, I mean, some people watch it on YouTube, but you sit there and you listen to it. And if that quality is just a little bit off, like it's not fun. It is not enjoyable. So investing in all your shit, you got to invest in software to record, edit, all that stuff. So just make sure that you're willing to put your money where your mouth is, literally.
Yeah,
Yes.
seriously. I'm
Look at
all
Mo.
for that.
I
Man.
know.
Like invest in yourself. If this is what you want to do, invest in it. If you don't want to do this, don't even start.
Yeah.
Do something else. You know what I'm saying? But when it comes to starting a podcast, you have to get equipment, because if you can't get a studio with COVID going on right now, you can do everything at your house and take the time, not just purchasing things, but invest in learning, invest your time in learning things and all that, so forth. Like if you're real serious about it, do it.
Yeah, that's really, really great. I mean, I know Mo watches a lot of YouTube, and he's really invested in a lot of his stuff. I mean, I think so there's going to be two ways you go about this. You invest
Yes.
in yourself and you buy everything, and you figure that all part out, which is going to be a longer process, or you pay to have the convenience of all the equipment and somebody else to edit it. There's a number of ways to go about doing this.
I know, and I don't want anyone listening to be scared thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to put so much money into it. Because I also think it's really important when you are doing it to sort things out of like what you actually need and what you can do on your own. Because like an audio engineer, we need someone. um, and with some people starting a podcast, they might be able to do it themselves, but also to weigh out like your time and money, which one holds more weight for you, because it might be worth it for you to pay, but it also you might save by doing it yourself. And so figuring out what you can do on your own and then what you really do need to put your money into.
Yes. Or maybe you just record it and then send it to the engineer, or like the other way, like, write it all down and figure it all out. But it's not as easy. Like, I know they have a lot of these things out here where you can just like go to, Best Buy or something, and it's like podcast equipment, like a little kit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's cool. But like, there's also so much more to it,
Yes.
And I mean, again, we're just talking about like the technical stuff. We're not even talking about graphic designing for your brand, for your logo, for your,
so much
graphics, all that stuff, like getting your colors right. Like, I spent a lot of money in the beginning because it was like we needed a logo, I remember I had to pay for like Snapchat filters for our launch party. Like certain, there's just so many. When we host our events, like we put our own money into it. Keith, we're so lucky he has a traveling studio. So, there's just so many little things you have to think about when it comes to starting it. And, I know that we covered so much, but like definitely feel free to reach out to us and let us know, like, if you have a specific question. We'd be happy to point you in the right direction.
Yes. Yes.
What else goes in? Okay, so we got the idea. And then we got, we getting our funds together. What's next? Like, what's the next step we have to do?
You gotta figure out the roles of who's who in the podcast.
Yes.
So when you start a podcast, even if it's by yourself, if you got a team, if you're by yourself, you're a one-man band. So basically, you're kind of doing everything, mixing, engineering, recording, posting, all that stuff. But when you got a team, you got to figure out your roles. It's very important when you do so. And plus, it makes it easier. When you have a team, everyone has a task, they can get it done. So, who's the host, co-host? You got a photographer, who's recording your stuff, who's going to engineer, things like that. So when you figure out those roles, it's very important your podcast can go as smooth as possible. But that's also investing as well, which all this ties into that financial and beginning of how to start a podcast. Like, that's something you have to think about. So if you're solo dolo, do your thing, but understand you got to put your time in everything. But when you have a team, divide it all and figure out who's what, everybody's strong points, strong suits, and then work from there. And then I promise you, your podcast will run as smooth as whatever.
As butter.
It'll just run. There you go. Thank you.
Shout out to Enrique Black. He just commented and said that there's even podcasts that are out there that are just about making podcasts. So
that's a fact. That's
just
a
like
fact. There's so much free game in the world, and especially the game that we're providing as well when it comes to a podcast. So it's like, it's just notes everywhere to prepare you to start your journey on a podcast. And then when you get comfortable, your role could be providing that knowledge to the next up and coming podcast. So stuff like that.
Yes. Depending on your patience too. I know that a lot of people like that, again, you pay for convenience. So if you want, you want something quicker, you're going to come out of your pocket and build this team, or you got to find like-minded individuals. But the one thing that I do enjoy, even though it's a struggle about doing things by yourself, is that you learn everything. So you know if somebody's doing something right or wrong. So, even though that's a little longer road, I mean, I like to learn that way sometimes.
Me too.
It's a good thing to kind of do things on your own and then bring in people, because then you're gonna, you're gonna have the flow. I mean, unless this is something that you're doing with a homie or a partner or something like that, then it's great to start it together. But ain't nothing wrong with taking your time and learning everything.
Great
Absolutely. And like that's why, I'm appreciative of being on this podcast, because I'm on it from the beginning. But I've learned so much, even though I haven't talked as much, but I have co-hosted before someone,
I would
whatever.
say tell us
Anyway,
all
we
your
won't get on that.
Mo
roles.
held it down. Mo's day one,
Yeah.
y'all.
So, I've sat in the background, I've learned, but my role when it came to this podcast was being a photographer and video editing and so forth of that nature. But I've sat back and watched Casey and the guests that come through, and then my experiences of even talking myself. And like that took time, a year or so, to even understand what a podcast was and to
Yeah.
get the grist of it, whatever, I'm trying to say. And yeah, so take your time. It's and the best investment is time. The
You know
best
what?
investment is time.
Mo also, I mean, so we're hella over time, but Mo brought up a good point. Like Mo's been down since day one, so definitely get somebody who's really down. It's hard to find good people, so shout out to everyone involved right now because y'all been down. But definitely, if you're really trying to learn, help somebody else, or like be in the background, because now Mo really knows what's going down because he was there for everything. So he's able to move forward because he has a new podcast as well, Who's Got Next, and it's like he knows what he's doing. Like he's comfortable, he's confident, and I think that's a really great way to learn. I think people are always thinking you can't have interns or you can't be an intern unless you're in school. Like no, Naomi was a fucking intern.
Yes.
Now she's a damn co-host. So if you really want to learn, and that's just another great way to learn, hit people up and see how you can be a part of it. So we're going to save mapping the show for the next episode that we're on together, because I think it ties into what we're going to talk about anyways, which is about like interviewing and how to be a good interviewer and stuff like that. So we'll save all that stuff for the next episode. But before we end tonight, we're going to take a little quick break, and then we're going to be right back with the producer, the man who be holding it down, Keith. All right, we'll be right back. Keith, where you at? Lift up the curtain. Yes. Okay, perfect. All right. We're back. Oh my gosh. Okay, you guys, we are back. We got our guy, Keith. This guy be holding it down. He is the one who makes sure that our show sounds really, really good. What's good, Keith?
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me on.
Yes. Thank you for everything.
Thank you guys.
Yes. I mean, look at what you've produced. I'm
proud of what we managed to do. And, like one of the important things is like you guys have trusted me to do that. And you've trusted me when I've asked you for things, and you've trusted me when I said, hey, can you do this or this? And, something you mentioned before was just that, you're going to have to invest, and you're going to have to, do stuff like that. And one of the things that I really appreciated about you every time was that if I said, hey, Casey, you need to do this, or you need to get this piece of gear or whatever, you were on it. Like you were like, all right, I'm gonna do that.
I improvised.
Well, it makes such a huge difference when, like as a team, when you trust each other and, everybody listens to each other and all that comes together, like you can really create something dope.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, we're still just in the beginning stages of how to start a podcast, but do you think there's anything else besides practicing, which I want you to talk about more, that we kind of missed?
Yeah, I mean, let's see. So practicing, like the important thing that I would say about practicing is like what you got to understand about when you go into this is that like you may be comfortable being funny around your friends, or you may be comfortable having conversations with your friends, but it's a whole different story when somebody puts a mic in front of your face. Yeah. Like nerves set in, you forget things. It's just a different situation. You have to get comfortable with it, and you have to understand the way that the studio works, and the way microphones work, and the way conversations work online as opposed to in person. And so just being able to practice is such a huge benefit for anybody, because you want to sound polished when you come out. Mm-hmm. Like you've got if you're lucky, you've got the first 5 minutes of your show to hook people in. Because if you don't, they're gonna be like, I'm gonna go find something else.
For real though, that's all
Yeah.
it takes is just a few minutes. And it's so funny because also like I am one of those people who, I've done interviews with big rap stars on camera. Like I thought I just knew everything and was comfortable. And like the moment that we recorded our first couple practice episodes, for one, it takes you a long time to get comfortable listening to your own voice. That, like that's a big thing that a lot of people just like a lot of our guests don't want to listen to the episode because they don't want to hear their voice. It's so funny, but you don't get it. It takes a while for you to get comfortable. It's very cringy. And then two, like he just said, like you think you're this character and then you listen to yourself and you ain't, or the mic gets on and you're like a whole different person.
Yes.
So practicing is, it takes time. Like I practiced a lot with our first host before, and it took us a long time. And then once Naomi came on board, we had to do some practice runs as well.
And I just like, again, it's just so important because the other part of it is that you're going to go into this when you start and you're going to have this idea of what you want. But I promise you, what you end up with is not going to be what you started with. And you need to give yourself the time to figure that out. Because figuring it out on air, like people just are fickle. They don't have a lot of patience. So like you got to be able to come in and give them something worthwhile for their time because you're competing against television and streaming and computers and phones and everything else. So like you have to respect the audience's time and you have to respect that they want something good out of you. And practice, like I just can't stress it enough. That's helps so much.
Yeah, Naomi, did that like really help you kind of get comfortable?
Yeah, I was gonna say, to be honest, there were times I've never shared this with either of you guys, but I would practice just reading out loud because I needed to speak and just making sure that I'm like enunciating, but it helped because I still get tongue tied when I'm talking. But it just helped me I don't even know, just visualize what it was going to be like as I was recording.
I love that tip. I'm about to try that because I still be getting tongue tied.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like things don't come out perfect. Like, practicing doesn't mean like everything's going to be amazing. There's still some episodes where I'm like, damn,
Yeah.
I'm saying this word too much or whatever. But again, it just gets you comfortable with being on the mic. You hear how you sound. I think that's one of the biggest things I remember hearing from a lot of people is they just don't want to hear, they don't like to hear their voice. So you got to get comfortable hearing your voice. Because once we did, it was like we were listening to our episodes every week. And that's what helps you get better is that you listen to your episode over and over to see how you can be better for the next week. So yes, thank you guys for chilling with us. I know that our episodes are not usually this long, which again, I love. We'll talk more about that in future episodes, but it took us a while to get to the point where we're at. And I'm just so happy. I have the best team ever, and we're all doing a really great job. And it took us a long time to get here. So we just want to let you guys know that be patient, listen to everything that we said. And we're going to have so much more game for you guys this month. And, yeah, if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're definitely here to help you and your podcast glow up. And, maybe in the future you can work with Keith too.
Hey.
Listen, man, my DMs are open.
He is definitely the man. Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much. This is the first episode of Podcast Month. We're so excited to, feature this information for you guys. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and please watch us on YouTube so you can see what we look like, our faces, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, man.
And follow us at the Globecast. Do you guys have anything coming up? I know, Mo, you announced that your new podcast is coming out.
Yeah, I'm working on my podcast, Who's Got Next, bringing it to the airwaves since, due to COVID, I'm not able to record in a studio setting as of now, or I'm not really comfortable doing so, but that's coming soon. Who's Got Next will be coming soon. So,
and I told you the artists, they need that right now, so it's I'm really excited.
That's funny you said that because I've actually a couple artists hit me and I've talked to a couple artists actually, and and I kind of brought that to their attention. And they were like, "Oh yeah, I was like, "Oh,
so different world."
Yeah, different world for sure.
Anybody else have anything coming up? No?
We're in the middle of a big redesign on our website, and we're going to start doing a lot more outreach because, like something Casey said, there's a lot of people out there that want to start, and we'd like to be part of that. So reach out to us, man. You can find us at www.soundcastingnetwork.com. It's going to look a lot better in about a week, I promise.
Yes. And again, just, like listen to your past episodes. Is your experience good? Like, is your engineer got you? Like, you got to make sure that you sound good. That's like the number one thing. And then the rest will follow. So
yeah, care about your work.
Exactly. Yeah. All right, you guys. Well, it's been real. We will see you guys next week. And I'm really excited about next week because we have a guest who's going to really help you out with your podcast as well. So we will see y'all then.
Peace.